A Mother's Wish. This is a story of a well-to-do young woman whose mother is pressurizing to get married and give her grandchildren. Join us as we discover what happened to her at the end of the story. Before we proceed, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to be notified of our subsequent stories. Thanks for subscribing. Now let's proceed. In the bustling city of Lagos, Reby was a name that resonated in the corridors of success. At 30, she had carved out a niche for herself in the world of finance. With her sharp mind and relentless drive, she climbed the corporate ladder swiftly, becoming one of the youngest financial managers in her company. Reby lived in a spacious apartment in Lekki, filled with the latest gadgets and designer furniture, a far cry from her humble beginnings in the village of Umuim. Despite her accomplishments, there was one person who wasn't entirely satisfied with Reby's success. Her mother, Mama Reby. Back in Umuim, Mama Reby's life revolved around her daughter. She was proud of Reby's achievements, but there was one thing that gnawed at her heart. Her daughter was not yet married. Every phone call between them seemed to follow the same pattern. "Ada, my daughter, you know I am not getting any younger. When will I carry my grandchildren?" Mama Reby would ask, her voice tinged with both hope and worry. "Mama, you know I am working hard. Marriage will come when it is the right time," Reby would respond, trying to balance her respect for her mother with her desire to focus on her career. But Mama Reby was relentless. "Ada, look at your friends. Many of them are married with children. What are you waiting for? Are you not a woman?" These conversations often left Reby feeling conflicted. She respected her mother deeply and understood her desire for grandchildren, but she also had her own dreams and aspirations. Marriage was something she wanted, but not at the cost of her independence or the career she had worked so hard to build. The pressure from Mama Reby didn't end with phone calls. She started sending relatives to Lagos to talk to Reby, hoping they could convince her. Auntie Chinyere, Uncle Obinna, even distant cousins, all came with the same message: "Your mother is worried. Don't you want to make her happy?" Reby felt like she was being cornered from all sides. The stress began to take a toll on her. She found it hard to concentrate at work, her once sharp focus dulled by the constant nagging thoughts of marriage. Even her weekends, once filled with relaxation and social outings, became anxiety-ridden as she anticipated the next round of pressure from her mother. One weekend, Reby decided to visit Umuim, hoping to have a heart-to-heart conversation with her mother. As she arrived, the familiar sights and sounds of the village brought her a fleeting sense of comfort, but as she entered her mother's house, the tension in the air was palpable. After the usual greetings, Mama Reby didn't waste time. "Ada, I have prayed and fasted for you. I have even gone to the church to ask for divine intervention. Why are you delaying? What is wrong with you that you don't want to settle down?" "Mama, it's not that I don't want to settle down. I just haven't found the right person," Reby replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Mama Reby shook her head in frustration. "Is there a perfect man? You keep waiting for the right person, and before you know it, you'll be old and alone. Who will take care of you then? Who will carry on our family's name?" The conversation escalated quickly. Reby tried to explain her point of view, but her mother's words cut deep. "Do you want me to die without seeing my grandchildren? Is that what you want?" Mama Reby asked, her eyes filling with tears. That night, Reby couldn't sleep. Her mother's words echoed in her mind, weighing heavily on her heart. She felt trapped between her own desires and her mother's expectations. The frustration built up inside her until she couldn't take it anymore. The next morning, Reby made a decision. She would start looking for a husband, not because she wanted to, but because she couldn't bear to see her mother so unhappy. She returned to Lagos with a new resolve. She would go on dates, attend social events, and even let her friends set her up on blind dates. Anything to make her mother happy. The search was anything but easy. Each date felt more like an interview, where Reby found herself assessing each man's potential as a husband and father. But none of them clicked. There was the doctor who was too engrossed in his work to care about anything else, the lawyer who seemed more interested in her bank account than in her, and the businessman who was charming but evasive about his past. Despite her best efforts, the men she met never seemed to fit. Her heart wasn't in it, and she knew it. But the pressure from her mother kept her going. Then she met Chima. He was charming, attentive, and seemed genuinely interested in her. Unlike the others, Chima didn't seem intimidated by Reby's success. He praised her achievements and often talked about his own entrepreneurial ventures. Reby felt a connection with him that she hadn't felt with anyone else. After a few months of dating, Chima proposed, and despite the nagging doubts in the back of her mind, Reby said yes. Her mother was overjoyed. Finally, Reby had found a man who was willing to marry her. Plans for the wedding began almost immediately, and Reby felt a mix of relief and apprehension. She wanted to believe that this was the right choice, that Chima was the man she had been waiting for. But things started to unravel soon after the engagement. Chima began asking Reby for money to fund various business ventures. At first, she didn't mind helping out, thinking that as his fiancée, it was natural to support him. But the requests became more frequent and larger in amount. When she hesitated, Chima would remind her of their future together and how his success would benefit them both. One evening, Chima invited Reby to a luxurious dinner at a high-end restaurant. He was dressed impeccably, his cologne subtle yet alluring. The ambience of the restaurant was perfect, with soft lighting, and a pianist playing in the background. It was the kind of evening that would make any woman feel cherished. Over a bottle of expensive wine, Chima leaned in close and spoke in a low, soothing voice. "Ada, my love, there's a new opportunity that just came up. It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance, but I need to move quickly. I've already put in some of my money, but I'm short by a few million naira," he said, his eyes locked on hers. Reby felt a pang of unease. "Chima, I've already given you money for the last investment. I'm not sure I can." He cut her off with a reassuring smile, taking her hand in his. "This is different, Ada. This is our future. Once this deal goes through, we'll be set for life. We'll have the wedding of your dreams, a beautiful home, everything we've ever talked about." His words were persuasive, and for a moment, Reby allowed herself to be swept away by the vision he painted. But then a nagging doubt crept in. "Chima, why can't you get a loan from the bank? Or maybe sell some of your assets?" Chima's demeanor shifted slightly, his smile faltering. "The banks are too slow, and selling assets takes time. Time we don't have, Ada. But if you're not comfortable, I understand. I just thought we were in this together." The guilt in his voice struck a chord in Reby. She didn't want to seem unsupportive or distrustful. After all, they were going to be married soon, and marriage was about partnership, wasn't it? So, despite her reservations, she agreed to transfer the money. A few days later, Chima was gone. His phone was switched off, his apartment empty, and no one seemed to know where he had gone. Panic set in as Reby realized what had happened. The man she had trusted, the man she had agreed to marry, had taken her money and disappeared without a trace. Reby was devastated. She felt foolish for falling for his lies, ashamed of letting her guard down. She didn't know how to tell her mother, who had been so excited about the wedding. The thought of facing her mother's disappointment was almost too much to bear. For weeks, Reby tried to track Chima down. She hired private investigators, contacted mutual acquaintances, even reported the incident to the police. But it was as if Chima had vanished into thin air. The man she thought she knew so well had been nothing more than a con artist, using her love and trust to line his pockets. One day, as Reby sat in her apartment staring blankly at her phone, a message popped up. It was from an unknown number. Her heart skipped a beat as she opened it, hoping against hope that it might be from Chima. But the message was brief and chilling. "You're not the first, and you won't be the last. Move on." Reby's blood ran cold. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Chima had done this before. She was just another mark in a long line of victims. Devastated, Reby decided to take some time off work to clear her head. She returned to Umuim, seeking solace in the familiar surroundings of her childhood home. But the peace she sought was elusive. Mama Reby, unaware of the full extent of what had happened, was still talking about wedding plans and asking when Chima would visit the village to finalize things. Unable to bear it any longer, Reby broke down one evening and told her mother everything. As the story spilled out, Mama Reby's face went from disbelief to horror and finally to guilt. "Ada, I am so sorry. I never wanted this for you. I just wanted you to be happy, to have a family of your own," Mama Reby said, tears streaming down her face. Reby, though heartbroken, felt a strange sense of relief. Sharing the burden lifted some of the weight off her shoulders. "Mama, it's not your fault. I made my own choices. I let myself be blinded by the pressure to settle down." The following weeks were difficult. Reby had to come to terms with her loss, both emotionally and financially. She had to pick up the pieces of her life and move forward, though the path ahead seemed uncertain and fraught with challenges. During this time, Reby found unexpected strength in the women of Umuim. Auntie Chinyere, who had once been one of the relatives pushing her towards marriage, became her confidant. Other women in the village shared their own stories of heartbreak and betrayal, offering words of wisdom and support. It was in these shared experiences that Reby began to heal. One day, while walking through the village market, Reby overheard a conversation between two women. They were talking about a man who had recently come to the village, charming the local women with promises of marriage and wealth. Reby's heart raced as she listened closer. The description sounded all too familiar. She hurried home and shared her suspicions with Auntie Chinyere, who quickly rallied a group of women. Together, they devised a plan to confront the man. The next day, they lured him to a public spot under the pretense of discussing a lucrative business deal. When he arrived, he was met not with potential investors, but with a group of angry women led by Reby. As he tried to backpedal and escape, the villagers, now aware of his true nature, blocked his path. Reby stood in front of him, her voice steady but filled with the pain of betrayal. "You thought you could deceive us, just as you deceived me. But we're not as naive as you think." The man tried to bluff his way out, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. The police, who had been called by one of the women, arrived and took him into custody. As the man was led away, Reby felt a sense of closure. She knew that she couldn't erase the pain of what had happened, but at least she had taken a stand, not just for herself, but for every woman who had ever been deceived by someone they trusted. Back in Lagos, Reby slowly rebuilt her life. She returned to work, her confidence gradually returning. She became more involved in women's support groups, sharing her story to help others avoid the same pitfalls. And as for Mama Reby, she learned to be more patient with her daughter, realizing that true happiness cannot be dictated by societal expectations or the ticking of a biological clock. Together, they healed and moved forward, wiser and stronger than before. In the end, Reby learned that love and marriage could not be forced. They had to be built on a foundation of trust and mutual respect. She realized that her worth was not defined by her marital status, but by the strength and resilience she had shown in the face of adversity. And so, with her head held high, Reby embraced her future, knowing that she had the power to create her own happiness on her own terms. Thank you for watching and listening. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel at Folklore. Don't forget to tell us your opinion concerning the story on the comment box. Thanks once again.